We are Fortnite gamers, mobile players, paywall haters, entertainers, hot as lasers. Tell your neighbor, do a favor, you should subscribe, and you'll see more. Not lightning, he's not lightning, so enlightening, not so frightening. Hit like, and you'll see more. Who farted? He's who farted, not faint-hearted, nor outsmarted. Let's get started.
To not levy any sort of real punishment, that makes you look bad. And because of that, I think that's why they've been quiet.
I mean, let me ask you this, because I used to play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes for a long time. And yes,
same. Yeah.
Microtransactions existed. So the same scam we're talking about in this game could have happened in that game. There's one thing that's a little different about this game, though. In this game, you actually have the capacity to send gifts in game to another player. So right here, I'm in the store. I can choose to spend, $5, $10, or $20 sending my buddy Littlefinger a whole bunch of gems and some other things. Is that a potential issue? If I have ill-gotten gains, couldn't I just create an account, join a club, and I don't even need to send you a gift or send you gems? I don't even need to log in as you. I mean, yes, I would in order to get like 100,000 in one shot, but I could send Littlefinger gems right now if I just created an account. We were in the same club.
Right.
I'm not. I would never do such a thing because that dude's a total asshole.
I was gonna say, I don't know if that feature works, but if you want to test it, no. So you're right. You can send those. And what's funny actually is, so through the process of trying to unravel all of this mess, we were privy to hundreds of screenshots of conversations between the sellers and those that were either targets, were potential customers, and those that were customers. And actually, one of the customers brought up this very issue. Hey, why do I need to give you my login information when you can just go in and send me a gift? And if you've ever had the joy of speaking to somebody that's trying to engage in fraud, it's like fraud customer service, where it's like a flow chart. Like, if they object to this, then say this.
Yes.
And the first response was, well, that's just simply not a very good value. Look at that. $20 for 2,800 gems. That's a waste. And I don't, let's not give Glue more money than we need to here.
Yeah, the conversation is crafted well before you got to start speaking to this other person.
Yeah, right. And honestly, I read the whole conversation, and I can understand why they didn't do that. And now, functionally, why wouldn't you do that? I think there's a few reasons, probably. One, the mechanic of signing in as somebody else to do the purchases probably provides some, albeit thin, layer of protection for the person doing it.
I see.
Because they're not logging into their own account or whatever. Maybe that's part of it. The other part of it too is you have to do a whole heck of a lot of transactions, as you mentioned.
Which would throw up red flags. If I have 20 different $20 transactions from Glue, I'm probably getting a call from my credit card company. Are you sure this is you? Did you intend to make these purchases?
But is this happening right now? There's still a potential for abuse. And I think that's where it's incumbent upon Glue to say something, because at least then, again, like, if somebody's asking you, and, quick PSA here, if somebody is trying to sell you something in the game, outside of the game, and there's money that's going to change hands outside of the game, it's not legitimate. Don't do it. Otherwise, you could be involved in something unknowingly that goes well beyond the scope of a Disney mobile game. To your point, drug dealing, human trafficking, terrorism. You're just trying to get Mickey unlocked. You don't want to be involved with that. And then the second point is, you could lose everything. You could do one of these transactions thinking it's not a big deal, and then you get swept up. It's clear that Glue's not very careful in how they're dealing with this, and you could lose your entire account. And what are they going to say? They will say, you broke terms of service. goodbye. And there's no appeal. There's nothing that you can do.
Well, this situation, this whole thing is crazy. What's
It is.
so disheartening to me about this whole thing, because here's the thing, we could be talking about cheating today. We could talk about bans. To me, the scandal is more of Glue not really putting their foot down in the right way. Because based on what you're telling me, if people are still able to keep their ill-gotten gains and only be banned for like a week,
Mm.
I mean, we're not talking about any consequences whatsoever. And now
No.
the rest of us have to compete with these people, or our clubs are competing against clubs that have hyperinflated rosters.
Right.
I mean, it really makes you not want to spend money or to invest in the game itself, which hurts the game long term.
Yeah, I mean, just look at it this way. We both go to the grocery store, and you go to buy chicken, and it's 10 cents a pound for you, but it's $2 a pound for me. That's not fair. Like, that's not right. I'm going to stop purchasing. So there needs to be some sort of equity there, because I know for a fact there were some big spenders that got so frustrated with this. They haven't quit. Well, let me rephrase that. Some have quit wholesale. This was the last straw. And, I'm not talking about, again, an 80,000 Summoner Score account. I'm talking about 350,000 plus that have quit because of this.
That's
saying that, like,
crazy.
why am I going to spend money? Why am I going to continue to subject myself to this when they don't care? And just communicating something. Again, even no one is expecting a perfect and swift solution to everything.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, because I don't want to, for people who may not be as aware, the top spenders in the game, let's speculate roughly what they might be spending on average month to month, or what they might have spent already in this game.
Yeah.
Just so we get an idea of, we're not talking about people who just spent like $700 to play this game.
No. So again, without getting into too much specifics about like any individual player or whatever else, I mean, there's a range, right? So, I mean, I think you're a Kraken if you spend $1,000 a month, right? Which is a lot of money. If that's kind of your ongoing thing. There's players that, I've seen them spend $10,000 in 3 days, and it's not a one-off thing. So we're talking about real money. Now, again, like I think the positive thing is with a lot of these players, they have the disposable income, and that's how they choose to spend it, and that's like good on them. That's cool. No problem. Now, I know that like there's not enough Ole in the world for me to be able to keep up with that. And that's fine, right? I don't need to. And that's why, I feel like you can have every character maxed out in the entire game and not know how to use them effectively and be beaten by really smart team compositions and strategy. So that still does exist. It isn't, you don't just default win if you have the best roster. That's not the case, which is good. I feel like that's important. And so I'm okay with that. But, we're not talking nominal amounts of money here. It could be anywhere from, $1,000 a month to $15,000 a month. Not inconsequential amounts.
And those are clients you want to keep. And I guess I'm trying to imagine what this is like from Glue's end, from their business. And I'm trying to think of why I wouldn't ban a client in such a situation where they've gotten such an advantage, especially if I'm not going to roll back anything. And it's tricky, because let's say someone got, I don't know, $40,000 worth of credit or in-game equivalent currency or in-game rewards through these illicit methods. But in real life, they themselves spent $5,000.
Right.
So now you're in a tricky business situation. So I could ban this person permanently, but now they're projected to give DSA, say, another $10,000 over the next 12 months. That's not someone you want banned forever.
From
So
a business perspective, in a vacuum,
yeah.
you're right. And again, I'll say a few of the folks that were banned, again, these were people that were already spending money. Again, it wasn't free to play. Some of actually, all of the folks that were temporarily banned, and I'm not saying this just to trigger you, by the way. And yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this. The players that were temporarily banned that are now back, they all are part of the Summoners Council, right? They have the shiny frame. And I've spoken to one of them at length, who again recognized they had done wrong and tried to help and provided helpful information. They did. They're spending. They're back to spending. So they're a quote unquote profitable customer again. You're exactly right. It only becomes from a business perspective if the widespread issue, if it damages the healthy game, that enough people are discouraged to spend, that it outweighs those players doing that were doing the illicit activities. And I feel like it wouldn't be hard to outweigh that, but people don't want to. No one wants to fall behind. There was talks of doing like a spending boycott in some of the top clubs, but if you're a top club and you look in the rearview mirror and you see a couple other clubs hot on your heels,
well, you
are
see,
you going to be the?
if I was in the top clubs or one of the top, like say 3, I would promote and advertise a spending boycott to try and get all of my competitors to stop spending, whilst I keep doing what I'm doing and get far ahead of everybody else. It's like if you're in a race, it's like, okay, everybody, let's just all take a break. Like that's the person who's going to be the first person to dash ahead in that race.
Yeah, and that's exactly the fear. And also too, I mean, if you've got 50 people, it's hard enough to get 50 people to do the things that you need them to do in an appropriate way outside of this, right? But now to tell people, hey, no, don't do that, don't, whatever, that's a hard sell. But I do think that Glue is making a majority of their revenue from the top 100 clubs. Unfortunately, and whether they say this or not, just like in any business, if you have a customer that bought something from you once for $10 compared to a customer that buys monthly from you thousands of dollars, when you have a phone and both people call you at once, whose call are you going to take?
Yeah.
It's very clear whose call you're going to take. That's business. But there is a longer term effect here that if you have a business that is known for not doing the right thing and you are making every decision only based on calculations of short-term profit,
yes,
those businesses do not last. The game will not last.
Well, that's the issue. You're doing the right thing from a business angle by, let's say, only giving temporary bans to people who, having gotten inflated rosters, do spend legitimately a lot of money in the game. At the same time, you let that keep happening and this stuff keeps going on. You got to look at, is your game going to exist 6 months from now? Because if a lot of your big competitors and your big spenders quit because of frustration, because they look and see, one person in a competitive club has 10,000 gems and the next day they have 1 million, and they're like, I know that did not happen normally. That did not happen naturally. They're going to uninstall the game. And now where's your long-term money coming from? Because they're looking, you got to look at, yes, what you're making 3 months from now, but you also got to look at where you're going to be a year or 2 years from now. And we were talking about this off camera a bit about them running so many back-to-back legendaries. Whether there were like 70 characters in the game a month ago, and we gotten 10 in the last several weeks with 2 legendaries and also Miguel coming in. I mean, this is definitely a December push to elevate fourth quarter profits. Am I reading that wrong?
Well, and I think there's another interesting thing, right? So, um, the raid that came out was awesome. Like it is still awesome.
Yeah.
We crush it, and it's still fun. Like it was designed very well. It, some folks were upset because it seems sort of like a carbon copy of the Pit Rancor raid
Rancor.
in Star Wars. But you know what? For me, it had enough production value and enough unique elements that I'm fine with it. Right? It's a lot of fun, but it was also expensive. There was a lot of resources that went into developing that. So there is, in my mind, a disincentive to make this public and generate outrage over this issue when you're just about to release this landmark event.
Yes.
Where A, you want people to spend, and B, you want to be able to go and say, hey, look, here's what we did, here's the results we got, and it was great. Because if they falter on this big landmark piece of content, there's not going to be another one, and the game will wind down.
Yeah, this is not the thumbnail they want right before the raid launches.
Correct. And that's unfortunate, and I understand there's some business calculation there. I do. I get it. I'm not saying that they need to be more transparent than what they need to be, but I think they owe it to the players to explain this, and I remember joking around prior to all of this with one of the players that eventually was temporarily banned, and we were talking about racing to get a character to 7 stars and gear 7 the fastest, right? And like that irritates me that it's fun and whatever, but it irritates me that I was doing it legitimately and the other person was not. Like that's not.
Yeah, and
So
you,
some of that,
you just
some of that
mentioned-
comes down to me, right? Like, and I would encourage all players outside of cheating. This entire business model is built upon getting you to spend when maybe you don't want to. And so
Yes.
I would encourage everybody, first steps for this is to examine why you're spending what you're spending. Is it for a good reason? And do you feel good about it? If it's just to keep up with somebody else, maybe it's that person that can afford to drop 10 grand in a weekend. Maybe it's the person that they're not actually spending their own money. You're never going to be able to keep up with everybody. And so don't do it for that reason, because it's not a good reason.
Yeah, the game has to be fun in general, not just fun for winning. Like if you're not having fun, and look, I have to remind myself of this. If I'm not having fun even when I'm losing, I got to think about, am I playing the right game? There's a lot of games that are fun even when you lose. But this is why I think the community aspect of this is so important. The cooperative nature of this game is so critical, because even when you're losing, like when you're losing together, it's not so bad. It's a more enjoyable thing. The raid coming out and having good press, and not wanting certain stories like this to circulate, I get that. But one way a story like this doesn't circulate, and it, like, would we even be talking about this if they had really handled it properly? Because if they had banned lots of players, like, if a lot of the clubs saw, oh wow, like we lost 20% of our roster yesterday, you'd be talking about it, but it'd be a short conversation piece, and it's like, wow, this game's really serious, and and there'll be a lot of people who are thrilled because, hey, wow, Sorcerer's tournament is so much easier now.
Yeah.
Like literally, Littlefinger, I think he climbed to number 1 after 2 of his biggest competitors got banned, because he had actually figured out a way. He'd done some calculation figured out that they had to be cheating in his shard, and they were gone. And he was like, "Wow, I'm number one today. This is amazing." Because and they would have been banned if there wasn't something weird going on. But they're back now. He's having a hard time climbing again.
Yeah. So what's interesting there is there's people that have access to some of these data points. There's players out there that have the ability to access data that shows, how many gems or how much gold or how much energy somebody has at any given time. So you would hope that Glue has more sophisticated methods to uncover some of this, but they're also dealing with a ton of players. And just like a company that has security cameras that it's recording 24/7, it doesn't mean they're going to watch the footage all day until there's a problem that's reported.
Right.
And that's what's a little bit frustrating in some regards, because a funny story over the weekend, there was a player that they were banned. They were top of one of my friend's arena shards, and they wouldn't help anybody out. Like, they wanted to stay at the top of it the whole time. And come to find out, they were banned because they had gotten a full refund on their account through their payment, through their credit card. Glue found out and banned them. Great. Well, maybe they got a refund of $12,000, $15,000. They spent 3 of that and bought an account. What's funny is they tried to join the goat farm over the weekend.
Really?
And they did. They didn't change. I mean, obviously they changed their in-game username to what it was before. But I saw the username and I knew who it was. And so I accepted them into the club, and then I kicked them immediately. That way I would have 24 hours to let other clubs know what had happened.
Oh, so okay. So hold on. Let's play this backwards. You took advantage of the fact that there's a 24-hour cooldown period for once you join a club and get kicked out or leave, that you can't join anything. So by accepting, so what are you saying is that you accepted them in order to essentially hold them captive for 24 hours?
Correct.
That's amazing. That is the most gangster DSA move. Wow. Well done.
There's a few folks that didn't like that, but
that's amazing.
Similarly to how when Danny Mendoza found out about those cheaters in Frontierland, he kicked them out and he let everybody know what was going on, right? Because that way, at least he could say that I can't control other people's actions, but I can let them know. And this was very similar, right? I didn't want, and it wasn't a small account. It wasn't as large as this other one. It was maybe 315,000 summoner score. We would love to have 315,000 summoner score in our club. We would. They would be powerful. They would help with conquest. But, that's not the type of player that we want. And so yeah, I could have just hit reject. Wow. I accepted and then booted them. And then, uncovered. And then also, too, I wanted to screenshot their player ID so that I could pass that on. Because you can change your name a million times.
Yeah,
you can't ever change a player ID.
Yeah.
So that way I would have that, and I could let everybody else know, hey, look, if you want to accept this person, that's up to you. And I'm sure there's a handful of clubs that will gladly take that person. Fine. But that's not us. And there's other clubs too that would say, no, thanks. We're going to compete. We don't want an asterisk next to our records and what we do. Because it's not a good look when all of a sudden you see a bunch of people banned from a club or whatever. You have to wonder, what's that leadership doing? So yeah, I took satisfaction out of that, knowing that at
is
least
amazing. I commend
at least
you
we'd have a day
for
to
that.
let people know.
That I commend you tremendously for doing that. That is very smart. That is a very smart move.
Yeah, smart, petty,
That all of those beautiful things all together in one nice package.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different sort of shadowy elements of the game in any game. And that's why I think that if you're in a club and you're a club leader, then it's incumbent upon you to set the tone of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And similarly to how we've said, we're not going to accept those folks, that doesn't mean that the clubs that will accept them are inherently bad per se, right? But I think it's very important to be upfront about what you are, who you are, and what you're okay with, because that's the only way that you can ensure that that your club and your reputation will be what you want it to be, or what you're okay with.
Absolutely. One last thing I want to ask you is, what are some ways that may help other players in the game identify that they might be either working with a cheater unknowingly in a club or competing against one in, say, Sorcerer's Tournament, a PvP, or some of these other game modes?
Great question. Short answer: if you go against somebody, right, and you see that they are either using Elsa or Sheriff of Nottingham, report them immediately. They're cheating. Get rid of them.
Oh my God, I love it.
Just do it, please. And
I
guarantee
completely
you,
agree.
at least my climb will be easier. No,
Yes.
but in all actuality, there are people, again, there's data out there that are tracking summoner score changes at a large level. And when you look at big amounts of data, you can get a sense of what seems normal and what seems abnormal. And you can look at the outliers. That's happening right now, where folks are taking these big data dumps and they're saying, hey, last week this person was at 200,000. This week they're at 300,000. There's no events that happen. What's going on? So some of those things tip off red flags.
Yeah, because I know Littlefinger, like the way he figured out they were cheating is because he's like a stalker. Like if he gets beaten by someone, he looks at their roster. He wants to see what's going on, and he really is like becomes obsessed with someone who constantly beats him in, like, say, Sorcerer's Tournament or PvP. So he'll look at exactly what's going on, and the way he figured out the person was cheating was exactly that. He saw what it was, say, on like a Monday, and then on Tuesday or Wednesday, he's like, "Oh, that's strange. How did they get 4 tier 8s in like 2 days?"
And again, just because there's something that seems strange doesn't mean that it is.
Right.
I mean, I don't have the capacity to hoard materials. I just don't. I see all those little green like check marks or whatever, and I have to upgrade people. So I'm not good at that. There's other people though that all of a sudden they've been waiting and their frozen team goes from T6 to maxed T8 or whatever, right? So just because that happens doesn't mean it's suspicious.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
Correct. But when something seems really suspicious, it's worth looking into. And worst case scenario, I think if there is something that is suspect, we don't want a witch hunt where lobbying these accusations at people. But you can let Glue know, and they'll look into it or they won't. At least then you've done your part. And if there's something more widespread, at least it's on their radar. And again, to Glue's credit, they were very open to what the community found. And they didn't say, stop sending stuff, we've got it. They were grateful for what was uncovered and sent, and they did act on some of it. There's obviously a lot of room for them to improve, but I would recommend that if you do see something like that that's just very abnormal, it could be worth looking into more. It could be worth sending it to somebody. But don't just get upset every time you lose and report people. Again, unless it's an Elsa and Sheriff of Nottingham team, then you're probably right.
Man, how I wish that was true. Wow. Well, listen, man. Thank you so much for doing all this investigative work. And like I said at the beginning, you're kind of an advocate for the game in general, because even though these are like dark things we're talking about, we want this game to succeed. We enjoy playing it. And this is one of the reasons, like, our channel here has been immensely critical, because we've seen the potential, and it's frustrating a lot of times seeing all these bugs and issues that are holding this game back. And we definitely don't want ill-gotten gains and outright cheating or player bans causing this game to fail in some time in 2021.
Yeah, and frankly too, Glue doesn't have unlimited resources, and to the extent that they are forced to focus on this type of behavior, and half their time is focused on stopping cheating and these types of actions, that's less time that they could spend on developing new content. It's less time that they could spend on fixing Madam Mim or any of the other bugs that have been out there for a year. Not saying that they will per se, but it's certainly helpful, and I think that we have a great community. While I'm the one sitting here talking to you about it, there is a lot of great people involved that put their own names and reputations on the line to get into this. Again, I've mentioned Danny from Frontierland a lot. There's been many others too. So having that type of community where we say, look, we're not going to tolerate this type of stuff because we do care about the game. We do like the game. That will help out. And also, it's okay. We are consumers. It's okay for us to tell the person that makes the product we're consuming things that we're happy about and things that we're not happy about. So when we have those surveys, when we have an opportunity to voice our opinions and our views, do it. They hopefully at least will see we have to do something, or they'll at least show their cards that they don't care about the players. I don't think that's the case. I'm not that skeptical, but it's up to us to voice what's important to us. Otherwise, they don't know.
100% agree. And I think you take on a very different level of responsibility once you are willing to accept money from other people. At the end of the day, they are getting paid to do this. This is a business. So while they do have to make good business decisions, part of that comes with a responsibility to do right by the people that you're paying. And a lot of the people who are incidentally wronged by this are also paying customers, as you just said.
Right. Absolutely. Hopefully, at least, my hope for all of this, frankly, is just that it brings awareness to people that didn't know anything about it, and it causes them to ask some questions, and it increases the level of responsibility that Glue feels, whether it's because of fiscal reasons or otherwise, and they address it in a better way. And next time when there's whatever scandal or whatever fraud or whatever's going on, that they learn from it and they know that they're going to be held accountable by the player base, and they do the right thing. Not be perfect, but communicate, be transparent, and show that they respect the players and consumers that really enjoy their product for the most part.
That's awesome. And I know, Maelstrom, you just started your own YouTube channel, so I'm going to be adding myself as one of your subscribers as soon as this video cuts out. And I look forward to seeing your content. I'll put a link to your channel in the description into this video. So everybody watching, please look out for that and check out Maelstrom, because he's definitely one of the good ones we want to keep around and support for sure.
Yeah, thanks. And just along those lines, I don't have a lot out there yet. I've basically just used it as a place to put interesting compositions or interesting interactions. But I'm hoping to have some more polished videos coming out soon. And the point of it, again, is just to have fun and go against the meta and explore different team comps. So subscribe or not, I really don't care. It's just more of deepening sort of the theory element of the game.
Awesome, Maelstrom. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on here and really kind of walking us all through this whole crazy situation that's going on.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for taking the time and for putting this out there so that the players know.
Awesome. All right, everybody, hit like, hit subscribe. We'll see you next time.